I'm going to start by admitting something that drives a lot of us crazy. You see a sleek, high-capacity dehumidifier on a product page. The pictures look perfect, the specs shout 100 pint powerhouse, and you think you've finally found the answer to that damp basement smell. Then you actually bring it home, hook it up, and after a week it either barely makes a dent in the humidity or it starts leaking water onto the floor. That gap between the promise and the reality is why I wanted to dig deeper before I hit buy on the AprilAire E100 Pro, and why I'm sharing this review to help you avoid the same disappointment. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the problem this unit is trying to solve. If you've ever walked into a basement and felt that clammy, musty air, you already know how much excess moisture can mess with your comfort, your stored belongings, and even the structure of your home. The biggest mistake people make is assuming any portable dehumidifier will handle a whole house job. The reality is that the size of the space, the temperature, and the source of the moisture all dictate whether a single unit can keep up. That's why the AprilAire E100 Pro markets itself as a whole home solution for up to 5,500 square feet, which sounds like a lot, but it also comes with some practical trade-offs you need to be aware of before you decide it's right for you. The first thing I noticed during my Hansen test was how the unit handles set-and-forget operation. AprilAire's smart sensing technology claims to automatically kick in when humidity spikes, without you having to fiddle with knobs. In practice, the sensor is pretty responsive. I set the desired humidity to 50% and left the unit running in a 1,200 square feet basement that was consistently around 70% after a rainy weekend. Within an hour, the display lit up, the compressor started, and the digital readout showed the humidity dropping steadily. By the end of the second day, it settled near the 4,849% mark, and the unit stayed silent for several hours, only turning back on when a sudden drop in temperature caused the relative humidity to climb again. For a homeowner who doesn't want to monitor a gadget every few hours, that autonomy is a genuine time saver. Energy efficiency is another claim that gets tossed around a lot, and this model is Energy Star certified, which means it has to meet a certain threshold for power use relative to the amount of moisture removed. In a real-world scenario, that translates to a noticeable difference on your electric bill compared to older, non-certified units. I ran the unit for roughly 10 hours over 2 days, and the power draw hovered around 600 watts when actively dehumidifying. That's lower than many comparable 100 pint machines that can pull 800,900 watts under load. If you're running the dehumidifier continuously in a damp crawlspace, those saved watts add up over months. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of daily usability. One of the biggest annoyances with traditional dehumidifiers is the water collection tray. You have to remember to empty it, and if you forget, you end up with a mini indoor pool. AprilAire eliminates that hassle with a continuous drain option. All you need is a standard garden hose or a floor drain, and the unit will automatically pump out the condensate. I set it up with an inch hose that runs to a floor drain in the basement, and it worked flawlessly. No puddles, no alarms. That said, the hose connection is a bit stiff. You have to push it firmly to get a seal, and if you're not comfortable with a little extra effort during installation, you might find it a minor pain point. The build quality feels commercial grade, which is where the corrosion-resistant aluminum coils claim matters. In my basement, the air is often cooler and the metal can get a bit damp. After 3 weeks of operation, there was no sign of rust or condensation on the outer housing, and the coil area remained dry. This durability is something you can count on if you plan to keep the unit running year after year, especially in environments that see a lot of temperature swings. However, no product is perfect, and there are a few practical weaknesses that surfaced. First, the unit is physically large, roughly the size of a small refrigerator. That makes placement a consideration. In my basement, I had to move a stack of boxes out of the way to fit it near the drain. If you live in a cramped crawl space, you'll need at least a few feet of clearance for both the unit and the hose. Second, while the smart sensor does a good job, it isn't immune to extreme temperature fluctuations. In a test where I turned the thermostat down to 55°F, the sensor's readings became erratic, and the unit cycled on and off more frequently than needed. That's something to watch if your space isn't temperature controlled, because the unit could end up using more energy than advertised. Another hidden trade-off is noise. The compressor kicks in with a low hum that you'll definitely notice.